Welcome back, YouBored watchers. Episode 2 of our kitchen series, or at least how to design your kitchen. Today's episode is kind of your pre-design stage. So these are 7 tips that you should think about, that you should run through before you get to actually designing your kitchen. And it's very important to do these steps, because if you just jump straight in, odds are you're either going to have to go through a number of designs before you get to what you want, which is fine. You should get what you want. But also, you could end up putting something in and a month or so later, you might just go, why did I do that? I should have thought more about that, etc., etc. So that's what this process is for. So, shall we just get straight into it? Okay. First point, why? Why are you putting in a new kitchen? What reason is there? Usually there are 2 reasons. The first reason is that you're looking to sell your house and you're looking to upgrade an area that is very important. And the kitchen is very important. In fact, I would go as far as to say it is the most important part of your house. It is the place where you spend a lot of time. It's the place where you eat, cook your food, prep your food. And in many cases, it is a social area where people gather. It's a lot more social than it used to be. It used to be just an area where you'd prepare stuff and then you'd take it out to the dining area. But now it's a very social thing to be in a kitchen, or at least have a kitchen as part of a bigger room. So if you are planning to sell, you might be looking at putting in a new kitchen. So the question is, in that aspect, if you are looking to sell, what do you do? The best thing to do is think about the buyers. Don't think about yourself. Think about the fact that other people are going to be wanting it. I mean, your taste might be fantastic, but your taste is not everybody's taste. And the biggest thing you can do when you're selling is to maximize the chance of a quick sale. And that means that people coming in are going to look at the place and basically they're not going to get put off by what they see. And that's what you want. You want people to come in and go, I love that kitchen, or yep, it's got a good kitchen. You don't want people to go in and go, that is an eyesore, or that's not me, I'm out. Especially if they like the rest of the place. So in those aspects, it's important to keep your ideas generic, I guess you could say. And it sounds boring, I know, but unless you've got a showpiece place, if you've got a penthouse apartment, or if you've got a multi-million-dollar chateau or mansion or anything like that, then yeah, go all out and design and make it all funky and that sort of stuff. I'd ignore trends. Trends are silly. Just something classic. But certainly if you want a showpiece, that's fine. So, but for most people who don't have mansions, they just have normal places, again, you're not going to like hearing this, but a white kitchen. When people walk into a house, they expect to see a white kitchen. They expect to see white. At least the cabinetry. You can get a little bit funky with the worktops, but let's not, start doing pinks and fluoro greens or anything like that. But you can get a little bit of flair happening there. But definitely, well, not definitely, but white. Stay away from two-tone as well. I know a lot of designers are out there going, oh, you could do dark at the top and light at the bottom and things like that. Look, it looks great. And if you're designing for yourself, fantastic. But if you're designing to sell, personally, I'd stick to white or a nice, easy color and keep it all the same color. Except for the worktop, as I said. You can get a bit funky with that. And splashback. So if you've got a base of white, you can accessorize with other things. But if you've got a red kitchen or even a black kitchen, for example, it limits what you can do, and it also limits the people who come in, because not everyone wants to see a black kitchen. They're coming in, they're going, oh, that's a black kitchen. Oh. Anyway, I love black kitchens, don't get me wrong. I even like red kitchens, but not everybody does. So keep that in mind. Having said that, if you are in your house and you are looking past the medium term, so longer term. If you're thinking this is like a 4 to 5 year house, then I'd probably think about who you're going to sell it to. But if you're thinking of keep staying there, if this is your long-term, your forever house, whatever you want to call it, do what you want. Don't listen to anybody else. Don't put in comfortable kitchens or anything like that. You plan what you want. You put in, if you want something that's purple with pink polka dots, that's great. You put that in, if that's going to make you happy. You're going to have to see it all the time, so it's something that you're going to be comfortable with. But go to town. Whatever you want to plan for. And don't let any other designer tell you shouldn't do it. If that's what you want, you do it. All right, so they're the two major things when you're looking to put in a kitchen. There are other reasons as well, but they're the most important ones. All right, so your next, so that was point one. Point one was why. Point two, budget. Budget, of course. Probably the most important thing. How much have you got to spend? So, how much you got to spend will make a big part, play a big role in who you get your kitchen from. Whether you get it from a company on the budget side of the fence, IKEA, local major places. In Australia we have Bunnings, and there's other ones that are in that what you would call the budget framework. And then you sort of step up. You go from there to your sort of what would be regarded as a higher end budget, but I'll talk on that in a second. And then you go up to more custom, where you go to the high end companies, and of course your good cabinet makers. But there are a lot of cabinet makers who have lowered their prices a lot. So don't throw cabinet makers out of the way. And certainly if you've got the money, it's great to use a cabinet maker. It's great to throw money to small business owners. That's awesome. Especially if you can find a good one. Good cabinet makers, they're awesome. They're great. So if you can find one and you've got the money, go for it. Do it. Job's on. But budget, IKEA's, Bunnings, whatever other rando company you've got in whatever country you live, as long as they've got good warranties and they've got a good product, that's fine. But the budget is going to determine where you go from there. Just on what I was saying before about the companies and all that. Most companies start with Modular. So even though you're paying a lot more, you might not necessarily be getting a better product. So just keep that in mind as well. And even if you go for the least expensive option, you can customize those things. If you get someone to do an install, if you get a cabinet maker to do the install for you, or a carpenter, they can customize bits and pieces to make everything happen. So don't get put off going for a really cheap option when you can add your little touches here and there. So, budget, very important. That was number two. Number three, the area that you're planning. The area that you're planning. I know it sounds, it's the kitchen. What? If you're an open plan, how big an area you're going to take. Think about what's in the rest of the room. If you plan too much for the kitchen, you might not have enough for the lounge area that you've got in that open plan room, or the dining area. Think about the size of the dining table you might want if you've got that sort of open plan situation. Because if you put in a huge island, for example, you might not be able to put in that 12-seater massive, table, or anything else like that. Same with couches. For example, the kitchen that I'm sitting in right now, when I planned it, we actually had a very, very big couch just behind the camera. And we moved it after we put in the kitchen, which we were already prepared for. We knew that was going to happen. But if that was staying, the island that I'm sitting at right now would look very, very different. So keep in mind that. On the flip side though, also think about the structure. Are you going to keep it the way it is, or are you going to knock a wall? Are you going to change a window? Are you going to put a new door in? All these things can affect flow. They can affect cabinetry. Certainly, if you're dividing up by putting windows and doors, you won't be able to put a whole run of cabinets and things like that. Think about access, all those sort of things. Certainly, if you're going to make structural differences like walls, a lot of people are taking small rooms and making them bigger. Open plan, very popular. I love it. Open plan's great. If you can do it, do it. But if you've got a room for a kitchen and you're planning for that space, that's fine too. You don't have to knock walls out. You can just plan for what you've got. That's great. And if that's the case, if you're planning for what you've got, think about, are you going to keep the same floor plan, or are you going to change it? And that's important when it comes to budget as well, because if you change the floor plan, that may mean you're going to have to re-floor, especially if the floor itself is cut to the current floor plan. And a lot of people forget about that, because reflooring it can be pretty costly. I mean, probably not as much as the kitchen you're putting in. Well, actually, in some cases more. But especially replacement pieces, a lot of clients that I have had over the years sort of assume that they're going to be able to get replacement bits. But if you put in, say, a floating wood floor, there's a fairly good odd, unless you did it within the last few months, that you're probably not going to be able to source the same product again, because the product's changed so much, and the colour of wood and all that sort of thing. So think about that. Think about the floor plan itself. Is that going to add to that, you know, that point number 2, the budget? And you're going to have to think about that and put that in. So changing the floor plan, changing the room layout, changing the walls, all that stuff in terms of the space that you're planning. So that's a massive point you really have to sit down and think about, because knocking walls out, I mean, that's a big budgetary thought. All right, let's go quickly on to number 4, the function. Think of the function that you're going to do for the kitchen. Now, again, it sounds a bit weird. It's a kitchen, you're going to be doing it for cooking, but kitchens are not just kitchens nowadays. Yes, you can cook in kitchens, but you've got your standard basic kitchen. Then you've got your showcase. Now, in some you know, huge places, and again, you've got penthouses and mansions and things like that. You have a showcase kitchen, and then you have sort of your function kitchen. And often that works as a butler's pantry, or it may work as literally a second kitchen next door or on another level or something like that. And that's another thing. Is it a primary kitchen or a secondary kitchen? So you have to think about those sort of things as well. Think about the position. Do you need to include areas for, say, a second fridge or something like that, if you're close to an outdoor area and you need a drinks fridge? But yeah, if you're looking at a showcase kitchen, then design and the way you're going to plan is going to be different. You're going to want it to be flashy. You're going to want people to come in and going, wow, that is just it in a bit. And that may mean different materials. It may mean different designs. It may mean really stepping out of the box and having something completely funky. But just remember that trends don't necessarily last, and things that we thought were really nice, well, not we, but people who put them in 20 to 30 years ago, they don't look too nice now, do they? And especially with the worktops, I see so many coloured worktops that are so ugly. In fact, in this kitchen before we did it, we had a black worktop with a green ripple through it. I don't know what anyone was thinking when they put that in. That's ridiculous. No offence if you've got a black worktop with green ripples through it. I'm sure it's lovely. All right, so think of the function. And as I was talking about, social. Social is a big function of kitchens. Do you need an island with a overhang so people can sit in there so they can talk to you while you're cooking, or you're going to use this as your... We use this as sort of a dining area. You know, we sit people just where the camera is there, and I often sit on this side, which is not much leg room, but it's good to sort of chat and talk and drink, and it's a good social aspect of the kitchen. Is there a thoroughfare as well? You know, you have to clear rooms for that. That's back on the other area, the previous point, which is area, but it's still part of the function of the kitchen. Is it a dead end space, or is it part of the flow of the house? Function, very important. All right, point number 5. Who is going to do the work? From the planning to the installation. So planning, are you going to do it yourself? Are you going to have a crack on one of the 3D rendering software that you can find in some companies, or even, you know, sketch it up yourself, which you can do? Or are you going to bring in a designer, like myself, to plan the kitchen for you? And if so, there are costs involved in that sort of thing. Some companies you go to, that's a free process. They can just send someone out, and that's great, they'll do all the work for you. And some others, of course, you have to pay for them either by the hour or a flat rate. So that's a cost. And it does help, especially if you don't know what you're doing. But if you want to have a crack, by all means, have a crack. It's good fun. It is a good fun process. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking and a bit hair-tearing out, and it could cause some arguments in the family. So probably think about that. I mean, even my wife and I, we had quite a number of heated discussions about what was happening in our kitchen. Also, the installation. Who's doing the work for the installation? Are you going to have a crack again at doing the install, or are you going to bring in an installer or cabinet maker or whoever's doing the actual design itself? Maybe they're doing it. I don't know. But have a think about those things, because that's a cost as well. Sometimes the installation can actually cost more than the kitchen itself, depending on the size of the kitchen. Not usually, but I have seen it happen. It's kind of odd, but anyway. But and it is a sizable cost, and it's not just the installation. It's it's not just plumbing, electrical, and gas. It's the actual cabinetry itself. So even if with the modular systems, the IKEA companies and all that sort of stuff, you still got to get installers to do them or do them yourself. And it's not just flat pack, so think about that as well. The worktops for those companies, they come in set pre-cut pieces. And when I say pre-cut, I mean they're just lengths, and you have to cut them to measure on site and template out your sink and your hot plate and that sort of thing. So if you do have a crack, you've got to be confident in those things. And you need to have the right equipment too. You need to have, a table saw ideally, or at least a circular saw, and you have to have a super, super steady hand. You have to tape up. If you're not really, really handy or a carpenter, I would recommend not doing your own install. I would definitely recommend getting an installer to do it. I didn't do my own install. I brought in an installer. He was fantastic, him and his assistant. They were great. They did a great job. This worktop here, they actually took two pieces and joined together. You cannot see the join. They did a really good job. I've got waterfall ends in this same material. I will do a show on my kitchen, but just not now. I haven't cleaned. I've just cleaned like this area. There's like mess everywhere. Anyway, all right. So who does the work? Think about those things. If you're gonna do it yourself, be prepared that it's not just, screw X in hole Y. It's a bit more complex. All right, next one is your time frame. So this is point 6 we're up to. Ripping through these pretty quick. Only one more after this. Point 6 time frame. When do you want it done? If you're looking at having lots of friends over for Christmas, don't think that you can have a design done a week before Christmas and have it installed. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Think in advance, and especially at this particular time, really think in advance. Especially if you're looking at getting an installer to do it for you and not doing it yourself. Because of Corona, in a lot of countries that have eased lockdowns, you still can't travel, which, as I've alluded to in another episode, people have got money to spend on doing their kitchens because they can't go on holidays. So it is a busy, busy atmosphere out there at the moment. We are run off our feet. I'm surprised I have time to do videos. Which also means that the installers are all booked up. So it's not as big a deal for the companies in particular, although they may have supply issues, but the installers are all booked up for months. I mean, it's not just installers, tilers, sparkies, plumbers, those sort of things. A lot of them are really, really tight. And to do an install, you need time. Even the quickest kitchen, is 1 to 3 days, but usually you need a week plus. Stone is another issue as well. You need lead time for that. Usually you need templating after the cabinetry's been put in, and then they create the stone and then come and put it in. So you've got around about 2 weeks minimum, depending on the availability, after you get planned. So I would suggest that if you specifically want your kitchen by a certain date, you aim at having the plan done. I would say no. I'd give you a 3-month window just to be comfortable. I mean, 2 months is probably enough, but 3 months, that should get you over the line. Maybe. Don't take my word for it. Maybe. All right, so think about the time, and time of year matters as well. When Corona's not in, usually busy times are after tax, because people get their tax back and they just want to start throwing it away. And before big holidays, before Easter, before Christmas, again, people want new toys to show people when they come over for lunch and dinner and that sort of thing. Time frame. All right, last point. Your non-negotiables. So think about what you cannot live without in your kitchen. It might be a dishwasher. It might be an island. It might be a really, really big sink. I've got a really big sink. It's awesome. For me, my non-negotiable was I needed it to be a little bit funky. I'm a kitchen designer. It wouldn't be very cool if I had a kitchen that wasn't a little bit funky. We did have two others actually. One dishwasher, that was one for us non-negotiable. The other big one was, and this is going to sound a little bit strange, getting the fridge in the kitchen. When we moved in here, which was 4 years ago, Yeah, 4 years ago. Our fridge didn't fit the cavity, which I knew, but I'd originally thought we were going to move on our kitchen sooner, but we didn't. So our fridge was actually in our laundry for, what, 2.5 years, or 2.5 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, 3 years. Yeah. That's really frustrating when you're cooking. And our laundry is not near our kitchen either. It's, 20 minutes that way. So when you're cooking and you think, I really needed an extra tomato, you've got to run over there, get it, come back. And by the time you come back, you might have burnt something. So anyway, having having the fridge in the kitchen, that was pretty important for us. It's just over there, which is, I look at it today and I still smile. It makes me happy. And we used to have a dishwasher in the laundry as well. So having the dishwasher makes me happy. But yes, so they were my non-negotiables. And although the island's great, it wasn't a non-negotiable for us. It just happened the way that I designed things, that it worked out well. And I'm very happy I did. But you might have other non-negotiables. As I said, island, you might have a non-negotiable that you need lots of storage. Lots of storage. As you see, I haven't put wall cabs behind me because I wanted the space to seem bigger. But if storage is your key, wall cabinets, put them all in, wall to ceiling, put them all the way up. Another one might be that you don't want a gap above cabinets. You might want a bulkhead to the ceiling. Again, that's great, no dust, all that sort of thing. There are lots of non-negotiables and they're very personal. So think about the ones that you absolutely cannot do without, because believe me, you're not going to get everything you want unless you've got unlimited budget and unlimited space. Because space requirements mean that sometimes you have to sacrifice things, and of course money requirements also are the same thing. But in an ideal world, you can get everything you want, but it generally doesn't work out that way. And that's what I find as a designer, is often I've got to chat to the client and work out the lesser of two evils. So can we put a dishwasher in? If not, can we get a double sink in so that it's easier to wash up? Things like that. Can we get 2 ovens in? No. Can we get an oven and a convection microwave? There are different ways you can get things out. Sometimes you've got to make really big sacrifices, and usually that's a space thing, but price is another big thing. So that's it. We've gone through 7 points. I'm not going to jump into an extra one like I did last time, but I really think they'll all help, and you really should think about all of them when you're designing. If you're wondering why I've got a tape here, I actually have absolutely no reason other than the fact that I wanted to have my tape here. That's the type of guy I am. All right, I'll leave you there. Have a think about that. This is episode 2. Episode 3 will be coming hopefully next week. And I believe I'm going to start getting into the actual planning process. So we've done measuring and we've done pre-thoughts, I guess you could say. I'll think of another title when I do the thumbnail. But yes, I think it's about time for planning. So have a think. See you next time. YouBored.